Welcome. I'm Beth Martinez, Deputy Superintendent in Fort Bend ISD. I, along with Pyle Pandit Talati and Jody Ryder in our Collaborative Communities Department, with the support and consultation of Karen Daniel Hamburg, our external boundary consultant through Cooperative Strategies, will be presenting the information to you throughout this session. Thank you for engaging in our presentation to learn about the proposed original recommendations for elementary schools in the southeast area of the district. The purpose of this overview and public input presentation is to share information with our community regarding proposed boundary changes and adjustments to open Alyssa Ferguson Elementary and provide enrollment relief for Heritage Rose Elementary. This presentation will include information on who is involved in creating recommendations and how they are developed, the district's 8-step attendance community process as defined in Board Policy FC Local to continue to keep the public informed of each step, an overview of the 8 decision principles also defined in Policy FC Local, in-depth information on the proposed recommendation including campus utilization numbers and boundary maps, a preliminary report, and last but not least, an opportunity for public input via an online and engaging platform. Our primary and collective goal in developing original recommendations with our external and internal stakeholders is to serve with a student-centered approach and a district-wide lens. Developing original recommendations is certainly not an easy nor quick process. It requires utilization of a comprehensive approach and strategy, engaging multiple stakeholders to come up with final recommendations for boundary adjustments and new attendance communities. We plan to recommend final boundaries to the board in February. Our stakeholders include Population and Survey Analyst, or PASA, our district demographer who conducts in-depth studies, for example, new housing, growth, live births, etc., that ultimately yield enrollment projections for the next decade. Cooperative Strategies, our district boundary planner who has expertise in educational, facility, and program planning and utilizes the PASA 10-year projections to make original recommendations. Our district departments, our Collaborative Communities Department leading our other districts to work in collaboration with the external consultants, both PASA and Cooperative Strategies, to review, assess, and finalize the original recommendations. In addition, the department engages and leads dialogue with internal departments and community stakeholders to account for feedback and review of original recommendations. Our School Boundary Oversight Committee, which is comprised of parents and community members who volunteer their time to review and provide suggestions on attendance community recommendations. The work of this committee aligns with the decision principles that are outlined in Policy FC Local. Our staff and internal teams collaborated closely with Cooperative Strategies to account for the latest and hot-off-the-press PASA 10-year projections and develop the original recommendations. Each step of the process was carefully assessed, reviewed, and considered to serve in the best interest of our students. Staff drove neighborhoods and roads, reflected on previous community dialogue, and entrenched ourselves into the work and community to understand a multitude of perspectives, wearing the parent hat, campus hat, and finally, and most importantly, the student hat, to ensure that what we're bringing forward today is our best work. As I mentioned before, this is certainly not an easy task, and rather than create a boundary, a line, our aim is to implement attendance communities in a traditional feeder pattern concept with the least amount of disruption to people and programs. When you account for the student-centered focus, the vision becomes clearer. Our decision principles, which will be further discussed momentarily, came further into light. Lastly, there are also 3 important factors that impact the original recommendations that you'll be hearing about. The PASA Demographic Report and Annual Enrollment Review, or AER, presented to the board last spring in combination with the Facilities Master Plan, presented in June, spearheaded the development of the original recommendations. Essentially, each spring, through the Annual Enrollment Review, the district presents data from the demographer to determine the key prioritization efforts for boundaries and building utilization for the following year. Last spring, it was determined that the district would focus on the northwest portion and the southeast portions of our district. To further elaborate on our stakeholders, I wanted to take a moment to elaborate on the School Boundary Oversight Committee, or SBOC as we like to call them, and the valuable role they play in ensuring that the original recommendations adhere to and align with the decision principles outlined in board policy. The SBOC is comprised of 55 parents and community members who represent all 11 feeder patterns. Members apply through an application process to serve on this committee and contribute a significant amount of their time to work alongside the district administration. We are greatly appreciative of their input and in-depth review of the original recommendations. Specifically, their role entails analyzing information presented by the district boundary planner and verifying they adhere to guidelines and board policy, accepting, modifying, or rejecting the administration's original recommendation. District administration coordinated a recent meeting with the SBOC on January 18th to discuss the original recommendations for the southeast portion of the district. Information and results from this meeting will be discussed later in this presentation. There are 8 decision principles outlined in board policy to help aid and inform the development of the original recommendation. On your screen, you will see they include consideration of student safety and providing students equitable access, maintaining the feeder pattern concept, assigning entire neighborhoods. In this instance, master planned communities are not considered neighborhoods, but assigning entire neighborhoods to the same school by utilizing natural and man-made boundaries where practical, incorporating safe walking distances, and supporting the neighborhood school concept, balancing utilization among campuses while considering future growth, considering balancing the efficient use of existing facilities and equity of academic programs that minimize reliance on portable classrooms, considering the unique needs of student populations based on current or future programming, considering boundaries that shall withstand time and minimize student moves to the greatest extent possible, and considering financial impact that lessens future capital and operational cost. Please make note that these decision principles will be discussed in further detail during a latter part of this presentation. You've heard a lot now about Policy FC Local. This comprehensive policy also provides an 8-step change process that the district must undergo as it relates to developing, presenting, and approving an original recommendation. You'll be able to see the role and involvement from each stakeholder group through the swim lanes on this slide. Additionally, we've inserted dates to ensure that we keep on track and allow for sufficient time to plan. We are now at number 5 as part of this 8-step process, with the primary aim to present our final boundary recommendations to the Board of Trustees in February. Now I'd like to introduce Karen Daniel Hamburg, our consultant with Cooperative Strategies.
A key priority focus that resulted in last year's PASA demographic report, annual enrollment, and facilities master plan was to address the growth in the southeast portion of the district, particularly in the Siena area. As such, it was recommended to open Alyssa Ferguson Elementary and establish an attendance community to help relieve Leonetti Elementary School. It was also recommended that the overutilization at Heritage Roads be addressed. The original recommendation for the Southeast Elementaries include establishing an attendance community for the opening of Ferguson Elementary, anticipated to open this coming fall, and make adjustments to the overutilized and still growing Heritage Rose attendance community. Program impacts of the changes at Heritage Rose include the addition of a bilingual program at Burton Elementary to service Burton and Rose Parks attendance communities, and continuing bilingual programs at Goodman and Heritage Rose Elementaries. Ferguson Elementary will relieve the overcrowded Leonetti Elementary School. In the recommendation, Ferguson will feed 100% to Thornton Middle School and the new Crawford High School. The boundary is west of Siena Parkway, immediately south of Siena Village, not including Siena Village, and north of Miller Road, not including the properties along Miller Road. The proposed changes include the northernmost section of Heritage Rose, south of Highway 6, moving to Schiff Elementary, and the Heritage Rose Elementary areas north of Highway 6, moving to Burton Elementary and Goodman Elementary. The area shown in red on this map is the area that moves to Schiff Elementary School. This area remains at Baines Middle School and Ridgepoint High School. The areas north of Highway 6 moving to Burton and Goodman both remain at Baines Middle School, but change to Hightower at the high school level. This chart details the proposed feeder patterns. In this case, 100% of Heritage Rows will attend Thornton Middle School. The area north of Highway 6 that moves into Goodman Elementary from Heritage Rows enters a 30% feeder split to Baines Middle School. The rest of Goodman attends Lake Olympia Middle School. The area that moves into Burton Elementary from Heritage Rows enters a 25% feeder split to Baines Middle School, and the rest of Burton attends Lake Olympia Middle School. 100% of Burton and Goodman will end up back together at Hightower High School. The charts on this slide represent the enrollments and utilizations of the impacted elementary schools. The top chart represents the enrollments and utilizations based on the current boundaries, and the bottom chart represents the information based on proposed changes. A few notes about these values. The 22-23 actual enrollment and utilization numbers in the chart count cap and overflow and other transfers. Projected enrollments and utilizations are based only on students living within the school's attendance community. Looking at the current boundary chart, if no changes are made to Heritage Rows, that building is projected to be utilized at 380% in 10 years. Remember, these values do not include the capacity of portables on any given campus. These initial adjustments to Heritage Rows provide relief in the short term. It is important to note that long-term planning is warranted for the district in the future. The chart on this slide represents the enrollments and utilizations of the elementary school attendance communities, including the capacity of the portables on each site. The previous slide did not include portable capacity. As you can see in this chart, some portables may no longer be needed after boundary changes. Until additional facilities are built in the southeast corridor of the district, Heritage Rows will likely have to continue to utilize portable classrooms that already exist on their site. It is important to note that long-term planning is warranted for the district in the future.
Thank you, Karen. My name is Payal Pandit-Talati, and I am happy to provide results from the preliminary report for the Southeast Elementary Schools of the district. The preliminary report is drafted after district administration engages with the SBOC members to present the original recommendations and obtain their feedback. The report provides initial findings based upon discussions and items brought forward by the SBOC. Cooperative Strategies presented the original recommendation to the SBOC and provided a rationale for how each decision principle aligned with the proposed boundary changes and adjustments for elementary schools in the southeast portion of the district. Each proposed change or adjustment was presented separately. Establish attendance community for the opening of Ferguson Elementary is shown on the slide here. All 8 decision principles were discussed for each proposed change or adjustment. For each decision principle, Cooperative Strategies assigned a color rating to indicate green aligns with policy, yellow somewhat aligns with policy, or red does not align with policy. Members were then asked to rate their agreement with the assigned color rating. On this slide, please note that the yellow ratings indicate that the district is fully aware and recommends long-range planning in the future. This slide in particular focuses on the adjustment of the utilization of elementary schools in the Southeast, particularly to provide relief to Heritage Rows Elementary. You will be able to see and assess that the SBOC was in overall support of the ratings presented. The last piece of the preliminary report entails the SBOC overall support rating for the original recommendation. As a reminder, the support rating is the utilization of elementary schools in the southeast portion of the district, which focuses on the opening of Ferguson Elementary School and relieving Heritage Rows Elementary School. 40% of our SBOC members accepted the original recommendations as presented. 36% accepted the original recommendation but have hesitation. 16% did not accept the original recommendation but will not impede on the process. 8% reject the original recommendation. I will now turn it over to Ms. Jody Ryder to talk about the process for public input.
Thank you, Paul. We invite and encourage all shareholders to express their hopes, concerns, thoughts, and ideas in the boundary planning process. To help us achieve this goal, we are using Thought Exchange, a discussion management software tool, to bring people together to have dialogue in an anonymous fashion. Thought Exchange allows stakeholders to actively engage in the feedback process by sharing thoughts confidentially and anonymously by ensuring all voices are heard. In addition, those who speak languages other than English can also participate in their native language through the translation feature. The district is requesting your feedback through the Thought Exchange platform to help understand the most essential decision principles to you when creating and adopting attendance zones for the utilization of the southeast area of the district. As a reminder, there are 8 decision principles found in board policy that help inform decisions around boundary planning. These were shared earlier in the presentation and can also be found on the district website for reference. The Thought Exchange question has been posted on the district's website and on this slide below via the QR code. When Thought Exchange has been accessed, the participant simply clicks on the link or scans the QR code to share anonymously as many thoughts and concerns and ideas that they like. Participants may come back as many times as desired while the exchange is open to rate or review new ideas or to add more. We encourage returning to the exchange platform multiple times to view the thoughts of the collective community. As feedback comes in, more information surfaces to reveal the most important topics the community wants more conversations around. Once the Thought Exchange closes, the district will provide responses to the School Boundary Oversight Committee and the Board of Trustees. Thank you again for participating in this process. As part of the 8-step attendance community change process, the next steps will move us to number 6. The district will carefully review and assess all public feedback and decide on whether adjustments need to be considered for the proposed boundaries before bringing back to the board for final approval. We would like to thank you for the time that you dedicated to watch this presentation and provide your input. Thank you.